It's clear that for the moment, at least, the regime shows no sign of ending its crackdown on protesters. Things are only getting worse. What's your take?
The take is exactly that. The regime has basically turned a deaf ear to the pleas of a lot of the world community, not all of it, to end this repression, to restore the overthrown civilian government. It's been more than 2 months, as you said, since this military coup d'état in Myanmar, and basically the slaughter by the military regime of this junta of its own citizens. It continues, but so too do the protests and the open and growing campaign of civil disobedience by the Myanmar populace. Look, it's obviously getting harder to show up on the streets in protest because the junta has been using rubber-coated bullets and often live rounds of ammunition against people in the streets. And the death toll at this point, as of today, is over 600. And that's not even counting, that's the official toll. We don't know what the unofficial toll might be. There have been thousands of arrests, meanwhile. What the citizens have been doing while they're trying to find other ways of seeing down this coup, of defying the junta, they're holding what's sort of become known as guerrilla rallies, which are quick acts of protests. You show up quickly. It's almost like a flash mob in the streets, hold up signs, protest before there's time for the junta and its snipers and its truckloads of security forces to show up and basically slaughter you. So that's on one front. But there's also the communications front, and there's a desperate struggle underway to make sure that the word keeps getting out to the rest of the world of what's going on inside the country. Because, as you know, wireless and mobile internet access has been shut down in the country. The regime has begun taking down satellite dishes. Social media is now being cut off. And the arrests are widening to anyone who is seen as sort of an influencer with a big following on social media with the potential to get the word out about the very bad things this regime is doing. So actors, models, celebrities, journalists, all of these people are being rounded up by the military, made sure that they are out of social media reach, out of the held incommunicado, disappearing often. And this is really where you stand. You mentioned the ambassador in the UK being locked out of his own embassy. He's claiming that that's a coup within a coup, if you will. It's beginning to have ripple effects well beyond the borders of Myanmar. So protesters, a lot of them are now beginning to fill shoes with flowers in protest as well, a sign of protest. But the protesters going on, finding new and more innovative ways to make sure that they can get the word out.
Yeah. What do you think happens next, Doug? Is it too late now to reverse the coup d'etat?
Look, it's never too late, you can argue. But effectively, look, I said at the very beginning that all the pleas from the West, the US, UK, Europe, has fallen on deaf ears with this regime. They have shown absolutely no intention of returning civilian government. As we just saw, the crackdown is gearing up, is intensifying, if anything. Look, here's the problem. The UN, can't really pass sanctions. Why? The UN Security Council is the one that decides on that. And you have two members, China and Russia, who veto any such move. And in particular, Russia's a major arms supplier of Myanmar, and it has really been, it's had Myanmar's back. It's had the junta and the regime's back in the past 2 months. You'll remember we recently spoke about the Russian deputy defense minister meeting with the head of the military junta in the capital, Naypyidaw. That was last month at an Army Day parade. And you've also just had China, another big investor, giant investor in Myanmar, basically doing what China often does in these diplomatic situations where you have calls for sanctions against a horrendous regime, a military junta, basically either keeping silent or not doing anything to make sure that any action's taken. So sanctions cannot be passed by the UN as long as you have China, but especially Russia there on that Security Council. So they are the impediments to taking any action of any worth against this regime. And in the meantime, you also have the European Union trying to do its own thing, Nadia, trying to perhaps target the military's economic interests.
All right, Doug Herbert, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for your analysis on the program.